Hello. Don't forget to like and subscribe before starting the video. Who is Lyndon B. Johnson? Lyndon Baines Johnson was the 36th President of the United States, serving from 1963 to 1969. He became president after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and his presidency was marked by significant social, economic, and political changes. One of Johnson's most significant accomplishments was his role in passing the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. He also signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which eliminated barriers to voting for African Americans and other minority groups. In addition to these civil rights achievements, Johnson was also responsible for the establishment of Medicare, a government-funded healthcare program for senior citizens, and the expansion of the War on Poverty, which aimed to reduce poverty and promote economic opportunity for all Americans. However, Johnson's presidency was also marked by his involvement in the Vietnam War, which became increasingly unpopular with the American public as the conflict dragged on. Despite his efforts to escalate American involvement in the conflict, the war ultimately undermined Johnson's presidency and contributed to his decision not to seek re-election in 1968. Lyndon B. Johnson was born in Texas in 1908 and grew up in a small farming community. His family was poor, and Johnson worked hard from a young age to help support them. Despite his challenging upbringing, he was a gifted student and attended Southwest Texas State Teachers College before transferring to the University of Texas at Austin, where he earned a degree in political science. Johnson's political career began in 1937, when he was elected to the House of Representatives as a Democrat. He quickly established himself as an ambitious and effective politician, rising through the ranks to become the youngest Senate Majority Leader in history at the age of 44. During his time in the Senate, Johnson was known for his ability to build coalitions and negotiate compromises, earning him a reputation as a master politician. One of Johnson's most significant accomplishments in the Senate was his role in passing the Civil Rights Act of 1957, which was the first federal civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. He also worked to secure funding for important public works projects in Texas, including the construction of dams, highways, and military bases. In 1960, Johnson ran for vice president on the Democratic ticket with John F. Kennedy, and they won a narrow victory over the Republican candidate Richard Nixon. As vice president, Johnson played an important role in promoting Kennedy's domestic agenda and building support for the administration's policies. After Kennedy's assassination in 1963, Johnson became president and was thrust into the leadership of a nation in mourning. He quickly set about implementing his own ambitious agenda, including his vision for the Great Society and his efforts to escalate American involvement in the Vietnam War. Despite the challenges he faced, Johnson's early life and political career had prepared him well for the difficult task of leading the country during a time of great change and upheaval. One of the defining features of Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency was his vision for the Great Society, which aimed to address poverty and inequality in America through a range of social welfare programs and civil rights initiatives. Johnson's goal was to build a society in which everyone had access to the opportunities and resources necessary to thrive, regardless of their race, income, or background. One of the key programs of the Great Society was the War on Poverty, which aimed to reduce poverty and improve economic opportunity for all Americans. Other programs, like Job Corps and Volunteers in Service to America, VISTA, aimed to help young people in disadvantaged communities access education and job training opportunities. Another important aspect of the Great Society was its focus on education. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act, signed into law by Johnson in 1965, provided federal funding for public schools in low-income areas, with the goal of improving the quality of education for disadvantaged students. The Head Start program, which was also created under the Great Society, provided early childhood education and social services to low-income children and their families. Johnson also prioritized civil rights as part of his Great Society agenda. He signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 into law, which aimed to eliminate barriers to voting for African Americans and other minority groups. He also established the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which prohibited discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, or national origin. While the Great Society was not without its critics, it represented a bold and ambitious vision for a more equitable and just society. Many of the programs and policies that were implemented under the Great Society continue to have a lasting impact on American life today. One of the most controversial aspects of Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency was his decision to escalate American involvement in the Vietnam War. Despite initial reluctance to become embroiled in the conflict, Johnson ultimately authorized a dramatic increase in the number of American troops deployed to Vietnam, with the aim of preventing the spread of communism in Southeast Asia. However, as the war dragged on and American casualties mounted, opposition to the conflict grew both domestically and internationally. Many Americans were disillusioned by the war and protested against it, leading to widespread social and political unrest. The Tet Offensive in 1968, which was a surprise attack by the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces, further eroded public support for the war and cast doubt on the effectiveness of America's military strategy. The impact of the war on Johnson's presidency was significant. As the conflict dragged on, it increasingly dominated his domestic and foreign policy agenda, taking attention and resources away from other important issues like civil rights and social welfare programs. Johnson's approval ratings plummeted, and he faced increasing pressure from both within his own party and from the broader public to end the war. Ultimately, Johnson announced in 1968 that he would not seek re-election, citing the challenges of the presidency and the need to focus on ending the war. His decision paved the way for the election of Richard Nixon, who ran on a platform of ending the war and bringing peace to the region. Despite the controversies surrounding his handling of the Vietnam War, Johnson's legacy is complex and multifaceted. He was a champion of civil rights and social welfare programs, and his Great Society initiatives had a profound and lasting impact on American life. The Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, and Medicare are just a few of the landmark pieces of legislation that were passed during his presidency. At the same time, however, the Vietnam War remains a dark stain on his legacy. Many believe that Johnson's decisions prolonged the conflict unnecessarily and resulted in the unnecessary loss of American and Vietnamese lives. His presidency was marked by both great achievements and great tragedy, and his legacy continues to be the subject of debate and discussion today. In conclusion, Lyndon B. Johnson was a complex and influential figure in American history. During his presidency from 1963 to 1969, he oversaw significant progress in the areas of civil rights and social welfare, with landmark pieces of legislation such as the Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, and Medicare. However, his decision to escalate American involvement in the Vietnam War remains controversial and continues to shape perceptions of his legacy. Despite the complexities of his presidency, it is clear that Johnson's impact on American society was significant and enduring. The Great Society initiatives he championed have helped to reduce poverty and inequality, and his contributions to the civil rights movement have paved the way for greater equality and justice in American society. As we reflect on Johnson's presidency, it is important to remember the complexities of his legacy and the ongoing debates surrounding his decisions and actions. We invite viewers to share their thoughts on Johnson and his presidency in the comments section, and to continue engaging with this important chapter in American history. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.